Chapter 17. Chilly Meeting. "That is a cry for help!" George exclaimed. Nancy put a finger to her lips to indicate that the riders should be quiet and listen for another call. About 10 seconds passed, then the faint plea came again. "Help me! Help me!" By this time, the girls had figured out which direction the cries were coming from. Nancy and her friends started across the flat land, watching carefully for stones, gopher holes, and bushes with thorns. As they proceeded, the man's cries became louder, so they knew they were getting closer. The riders finally reached the foot of a wooded slope. The person who wanted help was apparently at the top. "He must have had an accident," Bess remarked. Nancy suggested that the girls leave their ponies behind and climb up. "In case this is a hoax of some kind," she said, "we should stick together and stay near the trees for hiding places." "Good idea," George agreed. When the girls reached the top, they paused, and Nancy called out, "Where are you?" "Over here," was the reply. She and her friends turned to the left and walked a few feet. "Oh!" Bess cried out. Before them, secured tightly to a tree with a lariat, stood Ben Rowell. "Well, thank goodness somebody showed up," he said. "Come here and untie me." "Not yet," Nancy replied. "First, tell us who did this to you." Ben's answer was surprising. "It was Pop Hamilton," the cowboy cried out angrily. "He's got no right. Let me loose." As Bess started to move toward him, Nancy grabbed her arm. "Not yet," she said. "Ben, tell us why Pop did this." The man's eyes became like slits, and he hissed. "Pop double-crossed me and left me here to starve." The girls doubted this. Nancy took a step forward and said, "Now suppose you tell us the truth." Ben Rowell changed his attitude. Giving Nancy a sickening smile, he said, "I'll make a bargain with you. If you untie me, I'll give you the whole story straight." Nancy did not believe him. She asked, "Where did you meet Pop?" "At the Buffalo Spring," the cowboy replied. "But that's when he double-crossed me and wouldn't carry out the instructions in the note. He brought a package of money with him, but instead of handing it to me, he got those fresh boys chucking range to tie me up." Nancy wondered if she should tell this man that she was sure Pop had told him that he was believed to be an accessory in a kidnapping. She decided not to, but was puzzled. If Ben's story was true, why didn't Pop return and take his prisoner into custody? Just then, Ben Rowell began to laugh uproariously. The girls looked at him in surprise. What had brought about this change of attitude? Finally, between chuckles and sighs, Ben Rowell said, "Pop Hamilton thinks he's the smartest rancher in the whole West. Well, I'm here to tell you he ain't. He left me tied up while he and the boys went off to find the person who gave me that ransom note, but they don't stand a ghost of a chance of doing that. What's more than likely to happen is they'll get themselves killed." Nancy was shocked by this announcement. Did Pop Hamilton know of the danger he was riding into? Bess, in the meantime, had begun to tremble. She asked, almost in a whisper, "Did Chuck and Range really go off with him?" "Sure they did. You may never see him again." Bess sagged against Nancy and then settled to the ground. George was too horrified by the man's statement. She said to Ben, "Just what do you mean?" Ben roared with laughter again. "The two of them will likely get hung." This was too much for Bess, who screamed and then put her head in her hands. Burying her face between her knees, she rocked back and forth in despair. "I can't stand it," she wailed. Nancy was upset, but she managed to ask Ben, "Where did you send Pop, Chuck, and Range?" A sly look came to the man's face. "Let me go and I'll tell you," he answered, his lips curling into a sneer. Nancy informed the cowboy that Pop Hamilton was a deputy sheriff, and tying Ben up was the same as putting him in jail. If I let you loose, I'd be breaking the law. I can't do that. Ben shrugged. Have it your way, he said. But if you'll untie me, I'll lead you to the place where I sent Pop Hamilton and your boyfriends on their ponies. Nancy did not answer, but Bess raised her head. Nancy, she said, isn't it worse to think of something happening to Pop, Chuck, and Range than it is of untying Ben? She looked around. He doesn't even have his pony, so he couldn't go far away if he escapes. That's right, the man said. What's more, Pop took my gun. Now I ain't got nothing to defend myself with. So you see, you have nothing to worry about. Untie me. Bess looked pleadingly at Nancy. Please, she begged. Nancy did not know what to do. There might be some truth in what Bess was saying. On the other hand, Ben could easily get away from the three girls. She had a hunch his pony was hidden close by, even though the girls could not see it. Listen, George cried out. I hear hoofbeats. Were the oncoming riders Pop and the boys, or friends of Ben's? Let's hide, George urged. For safety, the three girls ran behind trees. In a few minutes, their worries were over. Riding toward them were Pop, Chuck, and Range, all of them unharmed. Nancy and the other girls came out of hiding. The riders were amazed to see them. Well, I'll be a gopher's uncle, Chuck exclaimed. How did you get here? Pop asked the girls. On the backs of 3 ponies, Nancy replied. She grinned. We came to see if you had captured the man you were after. We found him tied up, but wondered where you had gone. Ben was mumbling to himself, but the girls could catch only the words cowgirl now and then, and hate the whole bunch of them. Your prisoner begged us to let him go, and even promised to lead us to you, Nancy said. Pop Hamilton glared at Ben, then said to the girls, I'm glad you didn't let this slippery eel go. He's not to be trusted. Bess spoke. I'm glad none of you got hurt, as Ben said you would. George asked, Did you find the kidnappers? Pop shook his head. We took a chance following a direction Ben told us to go, but of course he wasn't telling the truth. The rancher suggested that the girls continue their ride. He and the boys would take the prisoner to town and have him locked up. Then maybe he'll talk. You can't do that, Ben shouted. All I did was deliver a message and didn't even get paid for all my trouble. He was told that he was wanted as a material witness, if not an accessory to the kidnapping. Apparently Ben had forgotten this possibility. He said no more, but glared at his captors. As the girls were about to walk off and descend the slope, Chuck called out, See you at the barbecue tonight. Range said he would be there promptly. George, don't be late. The girls rode back to the ranch house. During the afternoon, they all wrote letters home, then bathed and dressed for the evening cookout. They looked very attractive in their cowgirl costumes. George chuckled. If Ben Rao could see us now, he'd sure say he hated cowgirls dressed up. Nancy sighed. I have a feeling that Ben is only a small part of the whole mystery of Roger Payne's disappearance and the Sky Phantom. How I wish we could get a break in the case. The 3 friends went to the lobby. Chuck and Range were waiting for Bess and George. For a moment, Nancy felt a bit lonesome. She wished Ned were there, or even Bruce. As the 5 young people stepped outdoors, they saw a small plane coming in for a landing on a nearby field. It set down, taxied toward the ranch house, and then stopped. A moment later, Ned, Bert, and Dave stepped out. Oh! The girls cried out together, and all of them started to run toward their Emerson College friends. Hi! They called out. Nancy quickly outdistanced the others because Chuck had grabbed Bess's arm and Range had taken hold of George's, slowing their progress. Ned swept Nancy into his arms and kissed her. I'm so glad to see you, he said. And what a beautiful suntan. "It's wonderful to see you too," Nancy replied. "You're just in time to help solve a big mystery we've come across." Ned, who was a tall, attractive football player, grinned. "I can't wait to start." He doubled up as if he were rushing a ball. "Where's the enemy's goal line?" By now, Bess and George had broken away from their escorts and hurried forward. Dave looked admiringly at Bess and said, "How's my cowgirl doing?" George and Bert's greeting was a little more formal, but too warm to suit Range. The newcomers were introduced to the ranch boys, but Chuck and Range were aloof. Ned received a hearty handshake, however. As they all walked back toward the ranch house, Nancy took Ned aside and in whispers told him about Bess's plight. "I could see right away that something was wrong," Ned replied. "I don't like this kind of situation. It could mean trouble." The Emerson boys checked in. Then they went to their room to unpack and change into more appropriate clothes for the barbecue than those they had worn on the plane trip. Many people were milling around and were very sociable. After Nancy's group had filled their plates, however, they went off a little distance by themselves. It was evident that conversation was strained. Nancy and Ned tried to make this less noticeable by talking about the boys' trip to the ranch, then by completely analyzing the mystery of the sky phantom, the strange cloud, and the kidnapping of Roger Payne. When Nancy's report had been discussed from every angle, Ned changed the subject and asked about Nancy's flying lessons. "I'm getting along very well, according to my instructor," she answered. "He thinks I'll be ready to solo in a little while." "That's great," Ned replied. "I can't wait to see you manipulate the stick." As soon as the barbecue was over, Chuck and Range stood up and said goodnight to the others. They did not smile or say anything to show that the visitors were welcome guests at the Hamilton Ranch. Bess had controlled herself very well during the evening, but as soon as the girls reached their room, she flung herself on the bed and sobbed. "Oh, what am I going to do?" she said. "This is awful, just awful." George, who was less emotional than her cousin, said severely, "You're going to get a good sound rest. Don't open your eyes until morning. If you keep on crying like this, you're going to look like a hollow-eyed ghost." Nancy, more sympathetic, added, "Please try to relax and calm down. Let tomorrow take care of itself." Despite their worries, the three girls did sleep well, but awoke early. While waiting for the Emerson boys to appear for breakfast, they walked outdoors. Pop was just coming in. "Morning, girls," he said cheerfully. Then he winked at them. "I sent Chuck and Range off on a special assignment across the hills. It'll take 'em all day." Without waiting for any comment, he strode into the ranch house. Nancy thought, "What a wise man he is." As the girls looked after him, they saw their friends from home coming outside. There were greetings all around. Then Nancy asked if the boys had slept well. Dave's reply was, "Chuck and Range did, but I didn't. Someone put nettles in my bed." End of chapter 17.